Okay, we have the reports here, and you can learn more at wayne-madsen-report.com. I won't go over his whole bio. He's written for The Village Voice, Counterpunch, Corp Watch, Multinational Monitor, News Insider, These Times, The American Conservative. His columns have appeared in the Miami Herald, Houston Chronicle, Philadelphia Inquirer, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Sacramento Bee, Columbus Dispatch. Formerly worked with the Navy, then the NSA, then RCA. He's been everywhere, Al Jazeera, ABC, MSNBC, and he also was one of the founding members of EPIC. He joined great defenders of free speech and liberty. Wayne Madsen has been to Tripoli on occasions. He's going to give us his inside take on what's really happening there and the rest of the world right now, and how big this unauthorized war is, what it means to our Constitution. Wayne, thanks for joining us via video Skype.
Hi, Alex. Good to be with you.
Good to have you there, my friend. So break down the latest. I mean, you've been to Tripoli. You've covered it. What's happening?
Okay, well, I was over in Tripoli on a dignity delegation at the former Representative Cynthia-McKinney put together. I had been with her in October 2009, and she asked for journalists to go back because she said, look, what's happening here is not being reported by the Western media. And sure enough, after we went from, we flew to Milan and then to Tunis, and then took a plane from Tunis to the island of Jerba, right near the Libyan-Tunisian border. Then went by car because of the air embargo, the Tripoli. It was quite clear that we saw no current signs of rebel activity anywhere from the Tunisian border to Tripoli. As a matter of fact, we came across one.
Okay, Wayne, your video Skype was clear. Wayne, your video Skype was clear. Now the audio's breaking up. While they just try to go audio only on Skype, if that doesn't work, we'll call you on phone. While we get this key intelligence, again, you've been there several times. You just returned from a trip there for folks that had trouble making that out. And this is a big deal. I mean, even Democrats and Republicans are saying Obama is becoming an emperor, and saying the UN is his authority. He doesn't need Congress. Congress traitorously tried to give him authorization a few weeks ago, and Obama said, I don't need your stinking authorization. This isn't a war. It's humanitarian. The UN says so. And they got drones murdering whole families, bombing apartment buildings. I mean, it is on. And they are just... Okay, Wayne, continue. So you just got back from Tripoli. Break down what's happening.
Right. There was no current sign of rebel activity anywhere from the Tunisian border all the way into Tripoli. There had been back in when the rebellion first started in February. It looks like the NATO countries may have inserted people in the area to cause problems, but we came across an impromptu pro-Gaddafi demonstration on the main coastal highway from the Tunisian border into Tripoli. Once we got to Tripoli, life was normal, and this was not being reported by the media that's ensconced at the Rixos Hotel in downtown Tripoli. Life was normal except for the constant nightly NATO bombardments. The only planes you could hear, of course, in the air at night were NATO aircraft, and you knew when you heard them, get ready because the bombs are coming next. And sure enough, you'd see the explosions and feel the rumble if you were outside at night, and you would also feel it, as I did, in the hotel room. I was on the 10th floor.
You mean you would see the kinetic piece?
Yes, we would see the kinetic military action. They were constantly bombarding the Gaddafi military compound, which was about a kilometer and a mile from our hotel. This was where people were gathering every night, offering themselves as human shields. These were people, men, women, kids from all walks of life, going there after they got off from work, cheering Gaddafi. And we went as Americans and thinking, well, what kind of reception are we going to get? And to a person, they said, we love America, but Obama, we thought he was great. We're Africans. He's an African-American, but now he's bombing our country. What's wrong with him? And this was a constant question we were asked by the people of Libya. There were even traffic policemen out on the streets directing traffic who were not even armed. So the fact is that people like John Burns from the New York Times, one of these war correspondents that goes from U.S. war to U.S. war and broadcast Pentagon propaganda, and Simon Denyer, formerly from Reuters and now with the Washington Post, basically broadcasting or writing from Tripoli that, the city's under siege, life is not normal, Gaddafi's on the ropes. None of this was true. This was rank propaganda from these and other journalists. So
it's like the Rough Riders charging a hill where no one was. It's like Hearst Publishing. You give me the photos, the paintings, the illustrations. I'll give you the war.
Or more recently, what you
have seen the Gaddafi forces running around naked with bottles of Viagra, though.
No, yeah. Well, that's another one, and that was that wasn't true. Of course, here's another thing, and this gets to more serious issues. There have been many people who originally went with the rebels who have now tried to go back to Gaddafi because they say, look, of course we wanted a more open society, but we also didn't want a NATO invasion of our nation, and they have tried to get back to Gaddafi, and we've heard these cases of NATO bombing rebels by mistake, quote unquote, by mistake. It's quite clear from intelligence I picked up from people in Tripoli that some of these rebel movements were rebels trying to get back to Tripoli to rejoin Gaddafi to fight with him against the NATO invasion. And that's why they were targeted by NATO.
Tarpley was on with us earlier, Webster Tarpley. He says also some of the rebel groups are calling in airstrikes on other rebel groups that they're fighting with over power, and that it's a type of high-tech fragging.
Well, that's it. And the other thing that's very disconcerting is there is an economic embargo against Western Libya. Even fishing vessels can't go out to get their daily catch because they're interdicted by NATO vessels.
And that's genocide right there, keeping folks from food.
Right, and there's also the gas shortage. There's long gas lines, some of them miles and miles long. Taxis have one, trucks have another for diesel, others. But here you have ambulances. We're bombing civilian residences, and there's a shortage of gasoline even for ambulances. This is collective punishment. This is no different than the collective punishment that we see Israel do against the people of Gaza. NATO's doing the same thing against the people of Western Libya. And these people are innocent. They're caught in this civil war that's basically being supported by NATO. And I visited one man in a hospital who had been hit in the abdomen with shrapnel from a NATO bombing, and he was a history teacher, a high school history teacher, and he knew a lot about American history, and he said, I don't understand why you're bombing our country. We never attacked you, even with the nonsense that, the U.S. was supposedly said that Libya was behind the blowing up of Pan Am 103, when there's ample evidence to show that it was Iran that did that, and George H.W. Bush wanted to blame Gaddafi because he needed Iran to stay neutral because he had designs on invading Iraq in those days, Operation Desert Storm. So the people of Libya are wondering, why are you attacking us? We've never attacked you. And
what do they think of the statements by the governments that this isn't war?
Well, of course they know it's war. Now, after I left, I was there for a little over 4 days. Cynthia-Mckinney stayed even longer. And then after we left, of course, now they're bombarding during the day. So it's day and nighttime bombardment. And they're trying to basically wear the people down. All the PSYOP, all the information warfare going on. One thing that wasn't reported at all in this country was that the rebels are huge crooks. Remember Ahmed Chalabi in the Iraqi National Congress? And now there's $18 billion lost that we kicked over to these Iraqi anti-Saddam people. Well, we have the same thing playing out in Libya now. When the rebels took over Benghazi, they looted the central bank of Benghazi of $900 million in Libyan dinars in cash and $500.5 million in U.S. dollar currency. And now they want the Libyan assets unfrozen. Even people in our Treasury Department don't want to do that because they say, look, they've siphoned off all this money out of the Libyan central bank. Now they want to steal more money, obviously, to put in their Swiss bank account.
And we know that there's al-qaeda commanding it, and we're unpatriotic for saying don't give billions of dollars to al-qaeda. Stay there. I want to get your take on the, it's now admitted in Congress they're getting ready for a ground invasion, late September, early October. You've been there repeatedly. What do you predict will happen when the first Cav under 3 Corps goes in. Stay with us. We'll be continuing here with Wayne Madsen. Wayne, you're there in D.C. You're covering all this. You're getting ready to leave the U.S. again. You've been to Tripoli. They're now admitting they're getting ready for a U.S./British/NATO peace force that will invade Tripoli. And they're saying, you will not resist us or it's terrorism. So now we're going to have the spectacle of heavy armor rolling and firing. And if you fire back, you're now a terrorist. I mean, this is total mind control.
Well, that's right. And what we do know is that the Libyan government is distributing 1.3 million weapons to people in Western Libya. I spoke to one Libyan official who said, look, hey, we have something really nice cooked up for the American troops when they arrive. They're really going to like what we're going to serve them. Obviously, he's not talking about meals ready to eat. Well,
that guy's a terrorist. He should join al-Qaeda in the East and join the people that run America. He should thank them for the bombs killing children everywhere. And how dare him say that he would fight back against tanks with a gun. He's a coward.
Right. And I'll tell you the other thing that's not being reported is the $1.3 billion stolen by Goldman Sachs from the Libyan Sovereign Wealth Fund. It's quite clear that this was part of an investigation being conducted by the Gaddafi government. The anti-corruption agency was looking at the siphoning off of billions of dollars from Libyan oil revenue by certain government ministers. And isn't it funny? Almost to a person, these are the very ministers who defected to the rebels, heralded, oh, they're quitting Gaddafi, going to the other side. They went to the other side because they were about ready to be indicted and they were going to go on trial for fraud and siphoning off that money. And it's thought that when Saif Gaddafi's son, said, look, we bankrolled Sarkozy's 2007 presidential campaign in France, that some of that money from Goldman Sachs may have been the money that wound up in...
Well, of course, he made a deal with them. It's in mainstream news. They stole tens of billions. But again, Wayne, you want me to believe Goldman Sachs would double-cross somebody? That is how Goldman Sachs are good people.
Oh, yeah, and the other thing, isn't it funny, it's Sarkozy who was the first to go after Libya. He was the first to recognize the rebels. Obviously, the first target of the NATO aircraft happened to be the anti-corruption agency in Tripoli that had all the files on all this missing money.
Well, we all know our government's good. That wouldn't be happening. Come on, they're fighting. They're fighting to give freedom to al-Qaeda, man.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I wish we still had the video because we went to the bombed out residence of Gaddafi's son and I picked up a piece of rubble. I'm going to try to have this tested for depleted uranium, but it's quite clear that NATO said that was a military target. Well, it happened. The only thing I saw in the compound, there was a petting zoo where Muammar Gaddafi was feeding the animals when they hit the main structure. That's the only reason he survived. So they were trying to kill him. I picked up this piece of rubble next to the First Lady of Libya's handbag and a shoe. How would somebody like to go to Camp David and find the singed handbag and shoe of the First Lady, Michelle Obama?
Well, that handbag is actually a proton bomb. And those camels and rabbits or whatever they had actually have big vampiric fangs, like in the Monty Python Holy Grail, the deadly rabbit. That rabbit can attack tanks. It's evil.